Hey guys, it's Snow. So, Wrath of the Lich King UI time. You guys know me, I made the most popular TBC weakauras and UI for Rogue. So here is the Wrath of the Lich King version. So this should work for both pre-patch and Wrath of the Lich King when it comes out. And it's all dynamic, clean, minimalistic like my previous UI. So you guys remember my TBC UI. It's the same thing, just improved in some areas and with some new weakauras that I designed just for Wrath of the Lich King. So yeah, let's get into it and I'll show you the gist of my UI. Oh, and one more thing. As you guys know, I'm not playing hardcore as much in Wrath of the Lich King, so a big thank you to all the patrons who support me. You guys are the reason that I continue doing my UI development and all the other things. So if you want to help support this UI, you want to help support these videos, then check out the Patreon below. Patrons get extra weakauras and improved features on the UIs that I make on top of the default stuff. So yeah, you get extra benefits. Go check out the Patreon if you want to help support me, and thank you to everyone that has supported the Patreon so far. Okay, let's go. Okay, so yeah, this is my Rogue UI for Wrath of the Lich King. You can see, as I always tell people, my UIs are very minimalistic because I think you don't need 5 billion windows in your screen at all times. It's just completely unnecessary. You're giving yourself 5 billion bits of information you don't need. So yeah, I do have action bars down here. For people that don't know, they're always mouse over because I just don't feel like you need to see them. You can change them in the default upload of this UI. It's not mouse over, so they are visible. But if you want to change them, you can. It's just a simple LVUI option. Basically, the way I built my UI is it's all dynamic, meaning it only shows the information you need when you need it. And when you don't need it, it's not shown. And you see, for example, if I vanish here, right? The vanish disappears. I see the buff uptime on improved stealth. It shows that I'm in stealth, right? Because sometimes I vanish fails, right? So now I know anytime I'm in stealth, this will appear. And it shows and is replaced by this overkill buff window because now I have the overkill buff, right? So, and if I unstealth, okay, so let's go out stealth, it starts showing the countdown for when I can re-stealth, and then it starts showing my overkill buff countdown. How long do I have on overkill buff? So this is basically the way my UI works, is it's all very dynamic. It changes based on your current talents, your spec, and it just shows the information that you need and what you don't. It's all very minimalistic and clean. I like it clean like that. So firstly, you'll notice for those that play TBC, I moved the unit frames up to the top here. So if I do focus, for example, so target, player frame, and focus are all up here now. This is actually a very preferable place. A lot of PvPers in particular like to put your frames up here. And the reason why PvPers and a lot of PvEers as well even put your frames up here is because you spend a lot of your time actually looking at this top half region of the screen. And actually, you don't spend as much time looking in the bottom half. Usually, if you're looking at the bottom half, you're glancing down to look at cooldowns or something else. But when you're actually playing the game, you're looking at this top half. So that's why it's just handy and just clean to put this up here. Not all the way in the corner, because then you have to glance all the way up to look. But this region is just, I think it's a very good place to have your general HP and target bars. It's just easy to look at when you're in the middle of doing something. Plus, by moving up there, now you have all of this room here and all this room here to do whatever you want with it. You can put weakauras, you can put your DBM here, just any information, extra information you need. It's way cleaner and easier to put it here now that you don't have your HP bars taking up the room down here. Now, for people that want the old style, you're used to that. You only PvE maybe, you don't care about any PvP applications. I did include a skin here, so the profile here, PvE middle frames. If you still prefer that old way of having the frames in the middle like this, you can. So I did include an LVI profile where it's just moved back down here. So it's totally up to you. I like the new version where it's up in the corner. So firstly, that's the LVI profiles. Now, as you can see, we have energy bar here. Combo bar works exactly like it did previously, right? So see, energy bar, combo bar. Just clean, simple, minimalistic. This is a GCD indicator in the middle here. The ticker is removed for Wrath of the Lich King because you don't need a ticker. In Wrath of the Lich King, energy gains don't tick, they're just a constant thing. So yeah, that's the energy bar and combo point tracker. Up above it here, you see what's called the rogue active buff, debuff things. So basically what shows up here is just everything from trinkets to potion usages and anything offensive basically. So for example, if you're Shaman Lust, you want to pop a speed pot at the same time, you want to use your rogue cooldowns and other things. Basically all those short form buffs like procs and everything go up here. They'll just appear up here, right? So if I vanish, improved stealth appears as well. If I go out of stealth, it disappears. So this is just basically where all your short-term buffs and such will appear. Okay, now the change from TBC to Wrath and the new Weakaura I added for patrons in particular is that sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but when you're in a raid and 5,000 things are up, so you've got your procs going, you've got your Adrenaline Rush, you got your Blade Flurry going, you got your Speed Pots going, you got Lust going, 5,000 Trinket procs are going, right? So you got your Trinket procs going at the same time, and this place has 5,000 things, and you're trying to track your Slice and Dice at the same time, your Ruptures, your everything else. It got a bit much to have everything there. So what I did is I made a new dynamic Weakaura here that took out just the key rotational elements that you need to monitor and put it in its own little section here. So yeah, they're just down here now. And this is a dynamic Weakaura, so this will change based on what spec you are. For example, right now I'm Mutilate spec, right? Okay, so we swapped our combat spec. This is going to change right here. So now I'm combat. You will have to do a reload, just FYI, you will have to reload when you do this because your Weakaura detects based on your spec, right? Oh, and by the way, you can see here, some of these aren't round. So the round skin is just a skin I use. People always ask me about, hey Snow, why are some of your stuff round? It's literally just a mask skin you can apply to key Weakauras that you want. I haven't applied them to everything. So yeah, that's why some stuff is round, some stuff isn't. By default, the UI will come with just the squares, but if you want to change them to round, I'll show you how to do that at the end of this video as well. So you can see I've changed spec now to combat. So now instead of tracking your Envenom and your overkills and other things, now it tracks Rupture and your Killing Spree instead. So if I use the Killing Spree here, it shows the buff, then it disappears, and then it shows the cooldown, right? So basically, I just made it so that it will track based on your spec, and it will track just the key rotational things that you need based on your spec. Right, so this is a new Weakaura for the patrons. I appreciate you guys, and yeah, this is how I try to make it easier for you guys in Wrath of the Lich King. Okay, so just to quickly show you what it tracks in the conditional rotational section. So it will always track your Vanish here, and then if you are Mutilate spec, it will show you your Overkill buff and cooldown. Next to it is your Slice and Dice buff, which is for both specs. Rupture tracking will only show if you are combat spec. If you are not combat spec, Rupture will actually show just in your general rogue actives area up here, because it's not as crucial for Mutilate rogues to track your Rupture. Really, that's more of a combat thing. So if you are Mutilate rogue though, instead of Rupture tracking, it will show your Hunger for Blood cooldown. And it will also show you when the target is Hunger for Blood able, it has a bleed on it. And for the last slot is the Envenom or Killing Spree tracking. So if you are Mutilate spec, it'll show you with a glow when Envenom is ready, and then it'll show you the buff timer for Envenom buff when it's up. And then the same, similar for Killing Spree if you are combat instead. Okay, so just a quick demo for how this all works is, for example, I've been hitting this guy, right? So let's say I use Slice and Dice. So Slice and Dice appears here, all right? Or if I were to vanish, so we vanish, you see Overkill buff appears. If I go out of stealth, it shows that my Overkill buff is active and the buff timer for it, right? So now if I were to, let's say, Rupture, it shows that, oh, you can use Hunger for Blood because it's glowing, right? So you use Hunger for Blood buff cooldown shows. And as long as you see this glowy thing, you know that the target is also Hunger for Blood able. You can Hunger for Blood this guy. And then once it's no longer bleeded, you can see the glow's gone, so this guy's no longer bleeded. Okay, now finally we have Envenom tracking here. So you see once we have 5 stacks of Deadly Poison, Envenom starts glowing. So now you know, oh, okay, I can Envenom because I have 5 stacks here for efficient Envenoms. Right, so and then if you do use Envenom, the buff timer appears over the Envenom buff indicator. So basically this is how it works. It basically makes it way easier for you to rotationally manage stuff because it's all down here instead of buried with 5,000 buffs up here where the rest of the buffs will appear. Okay, now below it is where I put the PvE cooldowns and PvE pot consumable short cooldown tracker area. So this is another Patreon Weakaura that I made back in TBC. but I upgraded it by combining this with the explosive tracker. So now this tracks explosives and other things all in one. And it's basically where all your offensive short-term cooldowns live, right? So for example, if I use my trinket, you see my trinket timers are showing here, right? And it's all dynamic, meaning let's say if I wasn't wearing this trinket, it doesn't show that trinket, right? So it updates based on what I'm wearing as well. So yeah, if there's a trinket missing, I included most of the trinkets that I could find for Wrath of the Lich King already. There might be some leveling trinkets and things that aren't added, but just let me know and I can always just add it to the Weakaura to auto track that. So yeah, those are the 2 Patreon Weakaura sets that are available to all the patrons. So go grab that. All right, now below that, you guys remember this. This is my just rogue general skills tracker area, right? It tracks just your main rogue skills. So this area is dynamic. By that I mean, like the rest of my stuff, it will show based on what you have, right? So if your subtlety spec is actually set up to monitor the subtlety PvP spec cooldowns as well. If your combat spec, it will track instead of this shadow dance, it will track killing spree instead. And yeah, so it's all just dynamic. It'll change and show different icons based on what spec you are. So this is basically, you guys will know that usually I have these bars down here hidden. This is basically what I kind of use instead of like an action bar that's visible. I just hide my action bar and I just use this for my general cooldowns and things. Now you might be saying, Snow, if you hide your action bar, how do you see things like kick timers or kidney shots and things? Well, that's what this Weakaura is for. So this one is... So this Weakaura is the short cooldowns Weakaura. Basically, this will show on top of your stealth indicator. It will just grow upwards based on what cooldowns are on cooldown. And this is for kind of like your short cooldowns, like your kidney shot, your kick, your distract. So if I were to use distract, I don't have it bound right now. So if I would use distract, it shows me, oh, this is how long I have left on my distract timer, for example. But okay, let's do a kidney shot. So it shows, okay, this is how long I have left on kidney shot, right? So yeah, this is where all your short-term kind of cooldowns just appear. So if I want to know, oh, how long until I can kidney shot again? Here's how long until I can kidney shot again, right? So with the combination of these 2 sections, I really don't need an action bar. The action bar is there. You can make it visible if you want, if you need them for memorizing key bindings or whatever, but apart from that, you don't need action bars visible once you have these 2 added and combined. Oh yeah, and this PvE Weakaura here, this thing, it also for combat rogues, it also tracks your Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry as well. Yeah, so that's where Adrenaline Rush and Blade Flurry appear for combat rogues who might be confused. Okay, now on top of that, you may notice, look at this Hunger for Blood icon that's appearing over there when a bleed appears. So the Plater profiles from TBC are still available to everyone. They're still there. They still work perfectly good. The only thing I added is a Weakaura. Thanks to Wherefore for actually making this. I just tweaked it to make it prettier to fit with the Plater and Elf UI theme that I use. So it's literally just a Weakaura that will show Hunger for Blood nameplates. It will basically just show you which mobs are bleedable on your nameplates and let you know that, hey, yeah, this mob is bleedable if you need to refresh your Hunger for Blood. And it will only show if you don't have Hunger for Blood up. And not usable at the time. So for example, if I use Hunger for Blood, it disappears. Right, so it's just only there for when you actually, need to use Hunger for Blood and you're like looking at the mobs, which one has bleeds on it? Well, now you know. And it's thanks to Wherefore's code as well. I was going to make one, but then I saw Wherefore already made one and it works, the functions work really well. So I just tweaked it to be pretty. So yeah, full credit to Wherefore for that neat Hunger for Blood Weakaura. Okay, now the one more thing you'll notice is that these things keep showing up here saying cast slice or cast mutilate or cast envenom, right? Basically telling me what I should do next in my rotation. This is also something made by Wherefore. It's something I was playing around with. I probably won't use it as much once I get used to the mutilate cycle, but if you're just adjusting and getting used to the mutilate cycle, it's not a bad just helper guide. It basically just tells you what skills and what things to use. It's basically just a mutilate rotation helper. It's edited from Wherefore's version, which had a whole other UI thing with it. I just took out and just left just the text there. So that's also uploaded and available for everyone because that's all Wherefore's credit. I just wanted it there in case there were people who were new to Mutilate that just need that little bit of help with your rotation when they're getting started. And then once you're used to it, you can always just turn it off, right? Or delete the Weakaura. But it's just nice as a little helper for people new to Mutilate. Okay, now the final things I will say is every rogue should have a time to kill Weakaura. Basically, it's a time to kill or time to death. Weakaura is basically how long until your target dies. I'm not rating on PTR, so I haven't loaded that in, but I do have that available as well. I'll link it on the Discord and the Patreon. So yeah, it'll be linked in the description for people that basically it just shows on the number in my target frames. You can move it wherever you want. Okay, now the final thing I get asked a lot is you notice that these are circular, and when you import them, they will be squares like normal. If you want to have cool shapes in your weakauras, they're very easy. You install a UI add-on called mask, and then in-game you type /mask. And then under weakauras, you see this is every weakaura setting you've ever made. So if you want to change anything to a circle, you just go to weakauras, type /WA. You find the name of the whatever the thing indicator you want. So for example, vanish cooldown. Okay, it's called vanish cooldown. I want to change that. You go to weakauras. You find the thing called vanish cooldown. And here is the skin you want for it. For the circle skins, I use something called Rayleigh Ring Edge. So that's the skin. You want to search it up. It's called Rayleigh for mask. And then I set it to Ring Edge. And that's just the circle skins, and you can apply it to all weakauras. You can apply it to only certain weakauras. Now just heads up, it does take a lot of tinkering because you have to individually set which auras you want to be circular. But if you're like a sucker for cool looking weakauras like me, that's basically how you do the circle weakauras and things. Alright, so that is the Rogue UI. I hope you guys like it. It's all linked in the Discord for you guys. The large majority, almost all of it, is just open for everyone to grab. The two parts on Patreon are the new rotational helper section, the super fancy one that I made for the patrons, and then the PvE cooldown section as well that was also made for the patrons. So yeah, if you're a patron, go grab those as well. And for everyone that does support the Patreon, thank you so much, guys. If you haven't heard, I'll just be focusing on UI content for Wrath of the Lich King. So yeah, it's all thanks to you guys on the Patreon. You want to help support, check it out in the description below. And thank you so much to everyone that is supporting me on the Patreon. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next UI video at some point. Take care.